We are live.
Welcome to Family Maker Camp. Family Maker Camp is bringing you projects to do at home, and we feature fantastic makers that will teach you some new skills and show you some awesome projects. Today, we'd like to bring Shawna Begay from the Navajo Technical University in Crownpoint, New Mexico, and she's going to be on to teach you about making native plant seed balls. Shawna?
Hi, welcome. My name is Shawna Begay. I work with Navajo Technical University in Crownpoint, New Mexico. I work with the land grant program, and we do a lot of community outreach projects like seed ball makings for community and youth.
All right, so we are now going to show a video that Shawna has created to take you through the process of making seed balls.
In Crownpoint, New Mexico with the land grant program, and today we're going to show you how to make homemade seed balls. So to start, you will need a good mixing bowl or a container like such to combine all your product into. Some clay soil, which you can purchase from Home Depot or arts and crafts stores, or you can gather it on your own. You will also need some garden soil, which you can buy also from Home Depot or any place like that. Now comes the fun part of picking out which seeds you want to use for your seed balls. We will be using the Rocky Mountain Wildflower Mix, the Southwest Desert Wildflower Mix, and a mixture of different grains. What you will also need is measuring devices. So you can pick up a container like this one here from Home Depot. If you don't have one, you can use a regular measuring cup. You will also need a container that will help you sift through the clay to remove rocks and debris. If you don't have a sifter, you can use a colander. Use a garden tool that will help you sift through and mix. Alright, so the first process is to clean your clay soil. So what I have here is a bucket with the nice sifter in there. So you take your clay, you pour it on in there, and you're just going to give it a couple of shakes like this. After some good sifting, we were able to get some good clean clay. And as you can see, all the debris is here, including rocks. After you have everything separated, you can go ahead and mix it all together. So there's 5 parts of clay, 3 parts of garden soil, and 1 part of a mixture of seeds. Now comes the fun part of getting your hands dirty. So you can go in there and mix up everything with your bare hands, or you can use a garden tool to mix up everything. And make sure you mix up the clay soil with the garden soil and make sure the seeds are spread nicely around before you add in your water. So just keep mixing it around like so. Once everything has been mixed nicely, you can create a little circle. I like to create a little dam like this, so when I add my water, it stays in that one area. So here, I'm going to add my water. Everything has been mixed, you will see the soil is pretty clumpy and thick. So what you're going to do is you're going to roll them into nice balls about this size. So you're just going to roll it up and put it to the side. Alright, so what you're going to do is pinch off a couple pieces, not too big, and you're going to compact them together and then roll it out into a nice little ball. Then just kind of go through and just make sure no pieces are cracking yet. And then once you're done, you set it aside and then just start another one. And this project is great for kids as they get to get their hands dirty, they get to have fun, and then once the seed balls are dry, they get to throw them out. Okay, so once we're done making all the seed balls, you just let them sit here and just let them dry out for a couple of days, about 3 to 4 days, give or take. And with the mixture we just made, we made 51 seed balls. So now, like I said, just let it dry and then we will go and throw them out later. I hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you for watching.
Hi there. Now we are going to just talk to Shawna a little bit about her process. And we've had some questions come through. And one of the things that I was kind of curious about was what got you interested in making seed balls in the first place?
I am a current environmental science and natural resource major here at Navajo Technical University. So we deal a lot with, erosion, overgrazing, and, the rangeland is pretty bad. So when it comes to actually planting stuff, it does take a while to actually go out and plant things, little by little, like, in pots and stuff. But when you make seed balls, it's fun, it's quick to make them. And then once they're dry, you just throw them out. It's an activity that kids like, they get to throw something, but at the same time, they're helping the environment by bringing seeds back to areas that are completely, destroyed by overgrazing. And, overgrazing is a huge problem here on the Navajo reservation.
Right. So we have a couple of questions. One, Mike is asking, he's curious about why seeds don't germinate when you wet them to make them. So like within the process of making them, does the clay keep them from germinating, or does it, when it dries out, they just don't have enough time?
So the water is not too wet. I mean, in the video, it does look like it's really wet. The clay definitely prevents them from germinating. So when you have them set like that, and then from there, you set them out. I set them out in the sun for about 3 days, and they dried completely. So, you know, the clay, any of the water that I added into was completely evaporated at that point. So when you throw them out, and then when, you know, in the fall or the winter, when the snows come, in the spring when there's rain, that starts to break it down, and that helps to start the germination process. But after you make the seed balls and you set them out, they're completely dry, so the germination process doesn't happen.
And after they're dried, how long do they last? Like, how long could you keep them in that state?
So we made some seed balls last year at our 2 years ago at our camp. We had the kids all make it, and then they set them out, and then we just kept them in like little plastic containers, just so, you know, they weren't getting smushed, they weren't getting crushed, or, you know, they weren't exposed to the elements. And then last year at our camp, the students threw them out, so they last about a year.
Right. And in terms of using like the types of clay, I've read in some places that you could dig clay in your local area, or you can acquire clay. Have you used different types of clay to make different kinds of seed balls, or just at different times?
The clay we use, we harvest ourselves. You know, there's an area here, a lot of the Navajo Nation is primarily clay. So there's a lot of places here in Crownpoint that I can actually go and get the clay myself. We haven't tried any store-bought clay or clays from different areas, just kind of local here to New Mexico. But, you know, the easiest way to identify clay is, you know, areas where, you know, when it rains or when you're watering your garden, you know, around your house, if there's an area where the clay becomes kind of slick and they're kind of slick looking, the water doesn't go down, you know, it doesn't seep through the soil quick enough, that's usually clay soil.
So the Benevolent Orders of Makers is asking whether or not, if you live somewhere where there wasn't clay soil or it wasn't accessible to you, do you have a recommendation for a type of clay you could buy?
I know that Home Depot has clay. So it's just a general clay, you know, it's not a specific type. It's not, you know, I'm not really sure what types of clay are out there, but if you just find like a general clay and you only need, you know, depending on how much seed balls you want to make, you just change the measurements depending on that. So if you want to go 5 parts, and those parts could equal, you know, they could be cups, they could be handfuls, they could be teaspoons. That's kind of up to you on how you want to determine what a part is. So just depending on that amount, you can buy that. You don't need like a truckload of clay. You just need, you know, however much you're wanting to use.
And one question that I had was, how many, I noticed you used a wildflower seed mix. How many types of seeds do you feel are optimal? And, you know, if you were to make your own mix, how would you balance that? Because different kinds of seeds can step on each other in terms of their times of germination or their resource needs. Do you have any recommendations for that when you're using like one type of seed or making your own mix?
So you definitely could use one type of seed if you want to do that, you know, go that route where you can just have, you know, specific seed balls with, you know, a certain seed type, or you can mix them up together. You know, the beautiful thing about seed balls is once they're done, you throw them out and then basically let nature take over. I mean, most of these seeds could, you know, all grow in one spot, or, you know, when they're broken down, when, you know, birds come, insects carry them off, or the wind comes, it shifts it around and separates it on its own. So you're not going to have all the seeds grow in that one spot wherever the seed ball lands. Most of the time they kind of spread out and do, you know, they separate on their own. If you want to, you know, if you want to separate everything and then just have them throw out, and, you know, so that way you have specific areas where things grow, you can definitely do that. I would recommend that you don't use seeds like vegetables, because that would be bad. You know, you throw a seed ball, you're gonna have a pumpkin growing in the middle of a field. You can't have that. You know, a lot of these plants like fruits and vegetables, they do need water all the time. So you're wanting to do something that's more, you know, flowers and grasses that are local to the area so that they will survive.
And have you, when you've done any specific seed type tests, have you seen some types of plants or types of flowers or grasses grow better than others? Like when you've gone out with groups, have you sent out, you know, some types here and some types there and kind of watched what happened, like the length of time for germination?
So we, The type of seeds we usually add are all native seeds to the Navajo reservation. So we know, the area that they're from, that, they will have a higher chance of surviving. So those plants, we actually, there's an area local here from Crownpoint to about 30 minutes. There's a sand dune that's actually migrating onto the highway. So that was kind of one of the testing areas where we started with throwing seed balls there. And it was just the local grass here in New Mexico, things like Indian rice grass, alkali saccatone, stuff like that, where, we threw them on there, and then come the following year when we went back out there, there were plants growing. It just kind of, it just takes its time. And, if you want to go out there, you can also, purposely plant the seed balls where you want them to grow, water them if you want. But, seed balls is just a way to kind of throw it out just so that there's seeds in the area and, nature can take over.
So just following on from that question, do you vary the types of seeds you use by season in terms of, when you're sending them out, or even just, wanting them to grow? Since, a lot of plants have seasonal preferences. Like, would you throw something
normally
like that?
We normally throw out seeds that kind of grow in the spring and summer. So like flowers, these grasses that I was talking about. If you are wanting to do a seed ball that will, harvest plants in kind of the winter time, you can do stuff like oats, which, was part of the mixture, that some of the seeds that I added in the mixture. Oats grow all the time. They grow regardless of where they are. And what we try to do with our seed balls is we put plants in them that animals can eat, and that are also really good at, they're really good at erosion control.
Right. And so one of the things that we had talked about before was that you also, because you're, really focused on using native plants and obviously adapting them for the animals and for the environment, that you also have a lot of knowledge around the plants that are native and the uses of native plants in the Navajo Nation. And I wondered if you could talk a little bit about that, because I think that's something that a lot of people don't really know about, and how you can, choose these seeds for their uses as well as for their beauty.
Okay, so an example of some of the plants we use in our seed balls is the Indian rice grass that I mentioned. And it's really good at holding, erosion control. It's good for animals. They really do enjoy eating it. But also for the Navajo people, we actually collect the seeds and we grind it up, and it can be used as a baking powder. If you want to add it to like bread mixes or, those kind of things to food prep, you can add those in. We also throw out some other things like alkali saccatone. So those ones, the stalks of those are actually used in a traditional Navajo hairbrush. There's multitudes of different uses. It also controls, the soil. It helps with erosion. It helps, feed animals. So a lot of the plants we use have multiple uses. And then we also do stuff like Plains biscuit root, which is in Navajo culture, we can use that for soups, adding it to meals. It's like a wild parsley. So, a lot of these things, the plants have multitudes of different uses. You can also add in different stuff if you harvest it on your own, things like green thread, which we also call Navajo tea, or there's also Mormon tea, which you can add to the seed balls. And then those, are used, and they help really good with soil because of how bad their roots spread out. So, that helps with the erosion and, especially with the water runoff. And those can be, collected, harvested, and turned into tea.
All right. So we have somebody who's just tuning in here, the Pikachu family, and they're just asking us to repeat really quickly what seed balls are. Would you mind doing a last just discussion of what they are, and maybe whatever you feel like needs to be said about them?
Okay, so seed balls are just a mixture of clay, garden soil, water, and the seeds of your, whatever you want to choose. They can be flower seeds, they can be grasses, and what they are is you mix all of these. You mix everything, you turn them into balls, and then you let them dry for about 3 to 4 days Once they're completely dry and solid, you take them out and you can throw them, whichever direction you are. If you see an area that has, high erosion or water runoff, you can throw them there. If there's, patches in your garden where there's nothing growing, you can throw it there. And then from there, you just let nature take over. You don't water it. You don't plant it. So don't take your seed ball and put it in a garden, like a pot to grow, because you will have a lot of plants growing from one area and they'll outcompete each other and they'll kill themselves. So just make sure you kind of throw them out. And then once they're thrown out, nature, with the snow that comes down and packs it down, the rains that come, it will slowly start to germinate within the seed ball once it's moist, and then it'll separate. And then, the seeds, depending on where they blow or how animals or insects move them, you'll have plants growing in different areas.
That's so great. Thank you so much, Shawna, for taking the time to come and show us how to make the seed balls and for telling us all about them. And thank you to the Navajo Technical University for providing the information and the space. It's really great to see an initiative that kids can do together and go out and participate, and then take the time to become citizen scientists and watch what happens over time. If anybody is out there making seed balls, we'd love it if you wanted to show us show us your seed balls, and also show us the flowers that grow later on. You can post and tag your information at Family Maker Camp with the hashtag #MakeTogether. And please check out our events at makercamp.com. We've got all sorts of learning events. And thank you again to Shawna for joining us this morning.
Thank you. And do you have any other questions, or, want more information about, Native American seeds, or, seeds that are native to the Southwest? You can definitely reach out to us, and we will be willing to provide that information.
All right. Thank you, Shawna. Have a lovely day.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Bye.
Bye.